What's going on, guys? Welcome to Alignment First, where we're here to serve the executive athlete with integrity, courage, and ownership. And I have the honor and the pleasure to sit down with Jonathan Greye, one of the three-headed dragon that is brand, being, and business at personalbrand.com. Dude, I am so grateful for the time that we've shared together up to this point and for you making the space to have this conversation today, man.
Oh, me too, man. I'm such an honor to be on here. I knew when we were at the event, you and I connected deeply, and it's just awesome seeing how far things have just progressed for you since then. It's amazing to witness.
Dude, it was gosh. That event was was stop number one on a very intentional and deliberate growth journey that was Q3 for me. I had sunset the gym, moved into this holistic executive coaching platform, and I had literally, like a week before, come up for air and launched our MVP. And still there was some cloudiness around the message, the evolution, and just some inner work that I still needed to do to create what we're doing now. And so much of that momentum that was created was born of your presentation in terms of the mechanism that you put forth to understand your brand for yourself and how you communicate it to the world. And it's a fucking genius, man. Like it. And what I mean by that, you made the process so simple, and it was almost like, I think the word you used was anti-branding.
Unbranding.
Like unbranding. Yeah. So there's the conventional methodology that, we talked about in a marketing class in business school and stuff like that. And it's just like, no, man, like that. And it aligned with what we teach at Next Level in terms of showing up in the world in your highest expression. And that was probably my deepest and takeaway from the event as a whole, but now my understanding of branding, it transcends authenticity, and the brand is an extension of your highest expression. Does that line up with, did the student just regurgitate what the teacher expressed? Okay.
You nailed it perfectly. Yeah. And I appreciate you reflecting that back, because it's exactly the goal. That was exactly what I was really hoping people would walk away with. So, and I think with the whole process, the reason why I tend to go with that word on branding is because a lot of people are building a brand from a foundation that's not theirs. It's people who have applied things onto them, roles that they've taken on they're not very conscious of, or beliefs that they may have that has been passed down to them. So it's like, if you're really wanting to build a genuine, authentic brand, you're going to have to really unearth the real you first and then build from there.
So this is not how you started. You had, it seems to be like, at least from a formal education standpoint, a relatively conventional introduction into the world of branding. So yeah. I want to take a trip back in time and hear your origin story that gave you the expansion of aperture. Like maybe we're looking at this thing. I don't even know if wrong is the wrong word, is the appropriate word, because that's not the language that you use. But something happened where you were like, I want to do this different.
Yeah.
So tell us, man.
I think that mindset actually kind of started. I've been reflecting on this a lot since our workshop, and I think it really came down to when I was a young kid. When I was really young, I was in a family of artists. I was always surrounded by it, my brother was an illustrator, my father was a painter, my sister is a musician and singer. My oldest sister, she's an amazing chef, amazing cook.
Wow.
And when I was, and I mean, and me growing up, I didn't have any talent, and I looked at them, and anything I tried was just terrible. That like I would try to draw, everything I did, I hated. And I remember one day I was trying to draw, I think it was like Bart Simpson or something. And I was so upset that I couldn't draw that I got angry. I threw my pencils at the wall. I screamed like, why can't I draw? And I was crying on my pillow. My mom came in and she's like, Jonathan, maybe it's not what you're seeing. Maybe it's about how you see it. And then that was kind of like, I know. And it was like,
how old were you? That's like, wisdom, dude.
I was like 8 years old. I was young.
Yeah.
And then
did you internalize that, or was it like
I didn't really fully understand it. I knew deep down there was something there, but it didn't really click. And then it wasn't until like a couple of years later, I was in my bedroom and, I had like clothes all over the floor, and I had this picture of like that Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse. It's like super iconic, like on a shirt laying on the ground. And I remember looking at it and just being like, that's a circle. That's a curve. That's an oval. And I started deconstructing it. And then I was like, wow, I can draw that. And I remember I sat on my desk, brought my shirt to the table, started drawing, and I was able to probably like 85% there, like mimicking that same style. And I was like, oh my God, I did it. And then I ran to my mom. I was like, look, I did it. And she was like, look, as I told you, it's all about how you see it. And then then I understood. I was like, okay. So that was really kind of like my introduction of, in order to see something fully and truly, you have to break it down to the most simplistic form, the most simplistic aspects first. And even like what you were talking about during the branding workshop, like for my sake, for me to fully understand it, it has to be super, super simple. Like, in order to be like, the next piece has to inspire the next piece and keep going. And so that was kind of like my first idea of the importance of trying to see the world from a different perspective, to understand like, how do I get down to the deepest layer of really what I'm looking at? Yeah. Then when I graduated from, I went to art school, graduated, and immediately started working in branding and advertising. My creative journey around that was all over the place. I was trying to find my creative home. I just never really felt like it was the right space for me, but I kept trying to make it work. So I hopped from agency to agency. And as I hopped, I actually went up the ladder. I started as like a designer, then an art director, then a senior art director. And then I ultimately became a creative director. And I was like, maybe that's where I can have creative control. Because one of the biggest things I learned in agencies is that your work is not yours, it's the client's. So it doesn't matter how creative you are. If the client doesn't like it, it's not going to get made. So I felt like I was always battling red tape. And I was like, if I become creative director, maybe I can have more control. So that's what I did. Became creative director. Won some awards. But ultimately, that red tape came back and I had to make a decision. It's like, am I going to stay in this? Is this what I thought it was going to be? Or is there basically another path that's going to open up for me? So it was definitely at a crossroads point.
Dang.
Yeah.
So when you, what was the final straw that empowered you to make that leap?
I remember it. Yeah, I remember it so clearly, dude. I was so one of my favorite artists is Salvador Dali, right? And I mentioned this in our workshop.
Yeah.
We actually had the opportunity. So there's a Salvador Dali museum in the town where I used to live when I was creative director. So
in
the
Florida?
museum,
Florida, right?
Yeah, in Florida. Yeah, it was St. Petersburg. And so
Gulf side all day, baby.
St. Petersburg is a cool town. And so the museum reached out to us and like, hey, we would love to have you guys work on a project. So I was excited. I was like, yes, like Dali's one of my favorites. And it was super simple. It was like, hey, we want to do a brochure. And so I was like, we're not just going to do a brochure. Like how would we do a brochure if Salvador Dali was doing a brochure? So I was trying to like deconstruct the form and come up with all these cool ways of unfolding it, like origami, it turning into a poster on one side, like all types of really cool concepts. And it still followed the brief, but still trying to do something like more unique, something that was a little out of the box because it's the Dolly Museum. And we presented the ideas, and the president looked at it and was just like, this is too much. This is too crazy. And it felt like such a slap in the face. And it was like, man, the people who are managing Dolly, like Dolly's rolling in his grave right now. And so much creativity just be stifled. That was the breaking point. It's just
That's like the antithesis of Dolly.
Exactly. Like I was trying to channel Dolly as designer.
Yeah.
And it was like basically just, no, we aren't doing that.
Like the premise being, if you're curious about Dolly, if you're into Dolly, you'll appreciate what I'm creating.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And the powers that be completely missed it.
They couldn't understand it. They couldn't get it. You can tell that all they think about are numbers. They're not creative people. They're just they're managing the museum. They're all about ticket sales. They're all about getting people in the door, which is important. But I also felt like if you're going to bring a level of unexpectedness to something that everyone gets a brochure, I mean, there's nothing exciting about that. So if we were to reinvent the experience, like why wouldn't we try to explore that idea?
Turn that brochure into something that's a memory of that experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
Have a new relationship. What a brochure could be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what Dolly did. Like Dolly was the ultimate deconstructor, you know? And so like how do we apply that same thing to something so standard like a brochure?
Right.
So that definitely we deliver something still really cool based on the guidelines they wanted, but that idea of being so limited on something I felt like could really impact people, like and that's some of the best design is taking the most simplistic thing and just offering a new experience around it. And I was just trying to do that, and that was that beginning point of I can't work with clients anymore. Or at least clients who I'm not aligned with.
So how soon after did you, like how long did you weather that storm before you pulled the trigger and made your exit?
I think it was about 2 or 3 months. I think it was the realization that first coming to the idea that, okay, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I'm not just going to keep hopping agency to agency because that's not working. And then I was online. I was kind of looking for answers, trying to find like, oh, what's my next path? And usually what I do is, you know, I read, you know, personal development, you know, spiritual books. And I was going on the websites of like Deepak Chopra or Neil Donald Walsh and all these people I look up to. And as I was going through their sites, I just noticed how bad their websites were. And I was like, dude, their content is so good. I love these guys, but like their websites are terrible. And then it was in that moment that was like, well, maybe that's who I work with, is I work with people who are making an impact in the world. And then that's when I realized, okay, that's who I'm supposed to work with.
So let me ask you this then, because now I'm genuinely curious, because there's always the chicken or the egg equation of being a master of your craft and having the presentation to back it up. Which comes first, right? Is people's first exposure to you your website and you want to make that just absolutely amazing? Or is it the reputation derived of your ability to deliver for the client that overrides a shitty website? Like if you're starting from scratch and all you have is being a technician, what is worth your time and energy?
Just the first thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say the first thing is proof. You need proof. You need to show what you do works. You need to show that it's helping people, and you need to show that you're a master at it. Because if you don't have that, and if you just go straight to brand, then you have the risk of being a fraud, and you can basically fake your way into it. And there's a lot of people that do that. But even whenever I was trying to find my first client, I needed to show proof. That was my thing. I didn't build a website for Jonathan. I built a website to show the proof that I can deliver.
Yes.
And then from there, I was able to start developing, like, okay, now who's Jonathan? Yeah. I know it'd be kind of confusing, like chicken and egg, but ultimately people want results first. And then if you can deliver, then they're like, okay, now who is this person?
Now, how much does that presentation or lack thereof inhibit your ability to create impact?
Like having a brand and everything like dialed in.
Yeah. There's
a lot of people who've made millions with a really bad website. It happens. Right. And I think relationships are probably the biggest thing to leverage. Yeah. And then also having just a really strong team that just knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it also depends, it depends on the industry too. Some industries require you, if you're going to be selling high ticket, you need something that represents that price point. If you're something that's attainable, sometimes having great design might scare people, like, oh, this looks a little bit out of my league. Yeah. So it also needs to reflect where people are at, where you're at on your entrepreneurial journey. Yeah. And ultimately, like, what are your biggest goals, like financially too? And we always tell people, like, branding, there's a Goldilocks zone for getting your brand done. And there's a lot of things you got to figure out first in order to really know when it's time to invest in it.
What are those things that somebody needs to know that have figured out?
Yeah. And I think it slightly mentioned, is you have to know, like, what your offering works. You have to know that there's an audience for it. Yep. You have to make sure that you're able to build a business that's sustainable on it. And it has to make sense for you to invest in branding. You don't want to invest in it and be in a place where you're scrapped for cash. You know what I mean? Like, it has to, like, the business needs to be able to fund it, and that it's going to help amplify it, instead of a mindset of, I don't know if this is going to work, let me throw money at this and see. That's not the place to do it. So there's got to be a lot of metrics and proof on your end and your team's end to know that this is working. There's a trajectory happening, and we've been in business for about a year, maybe 2 years. And now it makes sense for us to brand. Like, we've Frankensteined it to this point, but that's not going to get us to the next point.
So your brand is an amplifier of your highest expression, but you have to have achieved at least a glimpse of that first.
Yeah.
Is okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and there's times too where I've built brands for people who are starting out, and they have some cash and they want to invest and do an amazing job for them. But then there's also the misalignment. Sometimes they, have a struggle stepping into that brand, and that's another aspect too. Or they look the part, but they're not delivering on the offer, or they're not delivering the quality that reflects their brand. Right. So those are some things that definitely has happened in the past.
Alignment. Let's go there. What are the common mistakes that people make that create misalignment between who they are, what they do, and their brand?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the biggest things people do is they tend to look outwardly of, like, what's everyone else doing? How do I make sure I position myself in that world at that level? And they tend to kind of just follow whatever the trend is, or whatever that person in that industry is doing. Now, there's nothing wrong with copying and kind of like finding your lane in a way, like through experimentation. But to straight up just rip someone off is completely like, that's just not cool.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people will just say like, oh, well, Gary Vee's doing that. He's posting 15 times a day. I'm going to start posting 15 times a day. And they go through burnout. There's a misalignment on who they are and the message that they're sharing. And then they'll ultimately quit and stop.
Yeah.
So it's focusing outward. And that's why like I talk about branding from within, because if you brand from within, there's endless content. There's always something to share.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think the people tend to go that route and externalize? Because that's a lot of the work. That's a lot of work that we do. Is like I literally just onboarded a new client today, and a lot of it was, you checked all the boxes over here, but your genius and because I'm paying attention to word codes and energy. When you talk about this, the frequency drops. When you talk about this, the frequency rises. So what's keeping your attention over here and preventing you from pouring into this over here? And so I'm curious from your perspective, because you're very much the wizard behind the curtain and helping people craft their message and make that branding shift. No, it's not this anymore. It's that.
Yeah.
What preoccupies people with the things that don't serve them?
I think there's a standard of what people would think a personal brand is. A lot of people think that a personal brand is how many followers I have. It's the audience that I show up online for. And my belief, and a lot of everyone on my team's belief, is that your personal brand is just how you show up every day and how you're making an impact, how your energy is resonating with everyone.
Yeah.
And we say this a lot, your brand is not really yours. It's other people's. You can help guide the conversation, and that's what branding is. It's kind of helping shape what conversations you want people to have around about you, but ultimately it's not yours. And so the best way to really manage your brand is to be conscious of what energy you're sharing, what you're putting out there. It's not about the likes. It's not about the follows. It's about congruence and alignment with who you truly are. So it takes a lot of work to dive into those things and to have clarity and face the mirror and be honest with yourself.
So to live into that highest expression, your most authentic self, what happens, or is there an instance where that highest expression doesn't generate, isn't a good business model? Like that's just a hobby, and we need to quote unquote settle for something else.
Yeah. That's a great question. I always go back to the idea of that, it's the whole concept of ikigai, right? Just knowing that like, okay, who am I? What am I here to do? How can I serve and make a big impact? And also what's needed. And it's always an experiment trying to figure out what those things are. And it's levers, and I think that's part of the entrepreneur journey. I think everyone can resonate with that. I might start selling squares. I'm passionate about selling squares, but then realizing that, wow, there's a really big market for circles, and you kind of have to just kind of pivot, and you have to understand that like you have to be open and receptive and not be so rigid, and then also be authentic to yourself. And that's where the idea of like, you can't just take things at face value. You have to kind of see things from that deconstructive mindset and look under the surface. And then that's where a lot of that experimentation and play is really important. And because if you're not experimenting, that's where you stumble upon like new things that maybe someone hasn't thought of yet. So it's always a dance. It's not a science, right? It's just like,
well, that's the artist in you, man. Like that lines up so perfectly with your lens of the world. You're that artist, not engineer.
Yeah.
It's not paint by numbers to you. no pun intended. It's freestyle. It's watercolor, you know.
Right.
And that's something that I appreciate so much, because in my entrepreneur journey, there's this concept of pivoting, but there's also like, what, just answering the simple question of what if we added that? What if we strip this down? When I look at everything that I offer and I throw the kitchen sink at this shit and I start stripping things away and I leave the price point where it's at, is the value still there? Right. And I feel like I've been very blessed with the ignorance and the courage to play that game and just see what shakes out. But, having been in that room and been a student of yours in this process, for me, I also got to experience from the outside in the folks that are in the room that are married to this thing that they thought they're supposed to create, or the rigidity of what it's supposed to look like. And, in our coaching, what alignment is not what it looks like, but more so what it feels like. And that's something that you, in your own beautiful way through the lens of marketing, really brought me back to, right? This new version of Next Level of Michael and Joanna, like let's untether ourselves from what we thought it was going to look like and really go after this feeling of what it looks like to serve our clients at the highest level. And dude, that was a fucking game changer.
Yes.
I
love hearing that.
So remind me, because I had my own lived experience. What are the mechanisms that you help people with in that untethering process?
Yeah, I think the first thing is being very observant, like where you're at, what got you here, and understand that. And this goes back to the concept of unbranding, that there's certain things that have been placed on you that's not yours. So let's honor that first and release what's not serving, so we can make room for what's going to come in. Because what's going to come in is going to be so much larger than anything has anyone's placed on you. So that goes into the process, and I call the unearthing process of stripping away, removing the masks, getting down to who you are at your core. The second part is, I call it the unlock, right? It's you've unearthed the safe. Now it's there. Now let's unlock it and find the treasures inside. Like, everything's already within you. We're not trying to slap something that isn't you. And that was the process that we went through in our workshop, understanding who's influenced you, who's kind of helped shape your consciousness, what books, what music, what things have kind of built you as a person and shaped your perspective. Like, let's honor that, and then let's build upon it. So it's using, and it's basically like a mirror method that I use to help me understand, let me understand how you see the world by what has influenced your way of being. That really opens doors. And when I see that, then my mind can visually anchor those things, because my mind is so visual that one word you say be like 5 things that will pop up. So like I'm designing in my head as people are talking. And then it's just about anchoring that energy down visually and just reflecting back. And one of the best ways to do that is to just get very clear on what's the level of impact that you want to create. And writing a manifesto is one of the best ways to do that. It helps you see clearly who you are, who you're here to serve, the impact that you want to create, and the path to help people achieve that next level themselves. And so that's a great way to entry point to just have awareness, of who you are and where you're going.
Do you know Stephen Pressfield?
Yeah.
War of Art.
Love War of Art.
In your work, in your coaching of brand, where do people meet the most resistance? Because the what really stands out to me in what you just said is honoring yourself. But I think that in order to accomplish that fully, it requires an indeterminate amount of time of stillness to really come to an honest conclusion as to what's true for you. But if you interrupt that process a lot until you run, like the example I was telling you before we went live, if you're not sitting still long enough to see that thought all the way through to the finish line, you're always starting over. Right?
Yeah.
Which creates that disconnect, that feeling of spinning your wheels, here, I'm gonna throw some more money at this shit. Here we go. Only to realize that if you just sit still for long enough and run that thing all the way to the end of the rainbow, it's like, oh shit. There's not enough mushrooms that Michael can do to solve this problem.
Right.
Because that's not the actual problem. There's not another course. There's not another mentor. Like what I just came to, like I was telling you, is like, it's an identity issue. It's not an identity issue. It's a strategy issue. But I had only run that thought process so far that I couldn't exhaust the perception of identity to get to the root, which was one of strategy. Right? So in your experience and client relations, where are people really bumping up against that resistance and like at that precipice, instead of leaning into it, backing off and starting all the way over?
I feel that the biggest resistance points are people sharing their story. For sure. Is really getting to who they are and sharing it and allowing people to see them instead of seeing them as they think they need to show up in industry. It's like that stuff's important too, but like, what's the story behind the story? That's where people are going to find interesting. And some people are resistant of wanting to share that. And then when they do, it's one of the driving factors that get people to want to work with them, because then they resonate with their story.
Why don't people want to tell the story, man? Is it a shame thing? Is it an embarrassed thing? Like, is it my story's not big enough? It's not relevant? Like, what are the stories that people are telling themselves to not tell their story?
I think people they're just too close to their story. They may not see why their story is relevant. There's a lot of different reasons. I mean, there's also, I'm not sure how my audience is going to hear, like how they're going to respond when they hear my story. I might lose people if it might be, it might separate people. It's the vulnerability of it and how people are going to respond to it that gets people to want to, they just get into that resistance. How much do I share? And I'm always a big believer, like, hey, let's share enough where I can feel something. You don't have to share everything, but there's definitely there's a story arc, and I want people to go through that journey when they understand you. Like, I don't want you just to be a lawyer. I want to know why you became a lawyer, what guided you, what's that one thing that shifted you. Those are the things that get people to connect, and sometimes that's a little scary for people.
But why is it scary? Like, there's a like in my conversation with my clients, and when they say when they start speaking these limiting beliefs out loud, I can't, I won't, I shouldn't. It's like, where's the proof that that goes sideways for you?
I think it just comes down to a core belief that it's unsafe for me to be fully seen. And I have to show up in a way that I think people expect me to show up. So I think it comes down to this core wound that it's unsafe for me to reveal my true self.
What's there to be said for allowing old, outdated versions of yourself to die so that you can move into this higher expression? You know, like I introduce you as one of a three-headed dragon, but there's this beautiful overlap in brand, business, and being. And you mentioned these 4 core wounds. And if you don't address them, you know, like one of my favorite, most recent examples is we were in our weekly coaching call for our clients, and we were talking about sleep and recovery. And, you know, we talked about everything, getting off your screen and black light shades and you know, all the tactics that help you with better sleep. And with about 10 minutes left in the call, there was this like sharp pivot that was like, but if you don't address the thing that keeps you up at night in the first place, there's not enough red light, water you could drink, ice baths you can take that are going to improve the quality of your sleep. And with that declaration, it was an invitation for one of our clients on the call to really come through and show up in that highest expression, clear that, and actually achieve the improved sleep that he was looking for. But that gets back to the 4 core wounds. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to see how that plays a role in your ability to create and develop a brand.
Yeah, well, I feel really aligned with thank you for asking that, because this has just been my journey too. You know, I build personal brands for people, but also I'm in the process of building mine too. And I experience everything that my clients experience. If anything, I experience it deeper, because there's also a expectation. If you're the brand builder, you got to be the brand master. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of that too. So there's, you know, I want to build trust, you know, and to feel that, you know, I'm not living to the place of where I deliver for my clients, I'm not delivering to myself. There's that's kind of an emotional wound there too. It's like I'm not living the thing that I'm sharing. But then that also goes back to the idea of, well, that's from the perception of what people think a personal brand is, but that's not how I think a personal brand is. That's right. I'm coming at it from an outdated perspective, which is causing that core wound. So it's like, it's a lot of like ninja mind stuff you just got to go through. Right. But I would say that goes into that trust core wound. I think the guilt wound comes from, I know that I'm capable, and this is where I feel like a lot of people can resonate, but I'm not showing up. Like, I know I have the gift. I know that there's people waiting for me to show up for them, but I'm not doing it. I'm too afraid to do it, or whatever the reason is. And there's a sense of guilt, you know, around that, you know, there's like I mean, this kind of goes to like what we talked about earlier. Like, if I share my story, I won't be accepted for it. You know, it'll create a separation. It's funny that a lot of people don't realize that these things can come up with branding because it comes off as such a visual medium. And it's not like the visual aspect is almost kind of like the aftermath. It's the result of, not the actual work that you do. So when people come up against, trust, abandonment, neglect, guilt, all these things, they think there's something wrong with them. And it's like, no, man, that's just the journey. Like that's everyone has to go through it. The people that you see who have millions of subscribers on YouTube, they had to go through it, and they're probably still going through it. It's not done. It's ongoing. It's just how you change your relationship to it.
Yeah. Is there a way to bypass all of that?
Is there a shortcut around that?
No, not so much a shortcut, but like, is there a way to, because the journey is the journey, right? And I guess where my head goes right now in terms, like, we hear about like the Gary V's, the Grant Cardones, the Joe Rogans, like they talk about all the pain, the anguish, the uncertainty, the imposter syndrome, like in the rear view mirror. Is there any value to putting, like, mustering the courage while you're in the shit and talking about, like, hey, I'm in it right now. And is there any value to that? Or is it truly best practice to fucking put your head down, figure it out, and then upon like the slightest smidge of success, now it's like, hey guys, look at all the shit that I just overcame?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, it feels like it depends on the person, but I feel like people have different ways of creating, and some people need to just lock themselves in a room. Some people just needs to experiment and play. I would say with all those different types of, I guess, approaches, the biggest thing that comes up for me is just detachment. Like, stop detaching yourself from the outcome and just be solely focused on what you're creating now. And after you're done, do it again, do it again, do it again. And so if you hold on to the idea, like, this is the one that's going to put me, to that next level, or this is the video that's going to make me blow up, it's just, it's not going to work. But if you're just detached and you're just and this is what I love about Pressfield, if you're just open and receptive to the frequency of creativity, allowing that to come through, then it does two things. It, one, detaches yourself. They're like, oh, well, that's just what came through. Yeah. And two, it relieves the stress of, I'm doing all this on my own. You have to, it's like, it's an artist's mindset, really. Yeah. Changing your relationship to it.
Do you feel like there's obviously merit to like the engineer approach, and, but I think that it's been my experience that, people will say, oh, I need more time. I need more time. And what I'm hearing, what I'm interpreting energetically is, no, you don't need more time. You're looking for fucking proof. Right. It seems like there's a paradox here, because in order to create the proof, you've got to put yourself out there. But if you're not willing to put yourself out there and risk all the not awesome things that may come with putting yourself out there, you're not going to get the proof. So the reason you're missing the validation is because you're not doing the thing that creates the validation. What a mindfuck that is. How do we
you gotta embrace the cringe. That's really what it is. Embrace the cringe, because what you're gonna create is gonna suck. but you have to keep going. I mean, when I first started personal branding, the approach that I was doing, I mean, at the time I thought was really cool, but I was calling it spiritual branding, and I was like trying to bring in, because I was wanting to work with those kind of people, and it was really cheesy, you know, but I had to go through that process. And I look back at it and I cringe. It's like, that's hilarious. And so you have to scratch the surface.
Is there a place for you as you move through your process where, like, as opposed to mustering the courage, just leaning into like, all right, this is where we're at, this is what's required, and I know because of your lived history, I'm gonna look back on this shit and laugh. So let's just move through it. Like, is that a mechanism that is just as powerful as like being courageous and thugging it out and pushing through, like just embracing the humor that lies on the other side of the cringe?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, even with the Zen with Ben story, I think it's a good representation of that. I think that was me. I'm gonna be ridiculous as hell, and I don't know where this is gonna take me, but I'm just gonna follow it. And it took exactly where it needed to.
Tell everybody about Zen with Ben.
And that was just, so before I left the agency world to do personal branding, I knew that I needed proof, right? Just as we talked about. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to create a personal brand and show people like what I'm capable of doing. But the idea of doing my personal brand was really scary, and it felt very vulnerable. And I have always been super shy, always been afraid of being on camera. Felt like I didn't really have anything to say. Like, what am I going to talk about? So what I did is I decided to build a character, and I was like, well, what if I create an alter ego or this persona, so then I can hide behind and I can really just experiment and have fun. And so I thought about, the process I do for company branding. I was like, well, how do I apply that for a person? So what I would usually do is kind of look at competitors and things like that. And I was like, well, I don't know if that resonates with me. So I'm like, okay, well, who am I just inspired by? Like, who are people that I could get some inspiration from? And I kind of went a little ridiculous, and I knew I wanted to be out of the box thinking. So I thought about comedians, and I thought about spiritual leaders. And so I thought about, Joe Dirt, I thought about Chuck Norris, Pee Wee Herman, and Alan Watts. And I was like, whoa, that's a crazy variety of people. And then the idea of like, well, what if I combine all of that into a character? And he's a spiritual redneck who gets drunk, has a YouTube channel, and he's just dropping wisdom. And every episode, I do some crazy, product that I share. Like I had this whole concept, and I was like, what would I call it? And then just randomly, when I was in the shower, the word Zen with Ben popped in my head. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. And I called my mom. I was like, hey, I got this really dumb idea. And my stepdad, he loves NASCAR. He drinks Bush. He has a workshop in the back. And I was like, he's like Zen, he's basically Ben. So let me go to their house. I put on some of his clothes. I went into his workshop, and I filmed my first episode. And they actually helped me like do my outfit and everything. It was really fun. And I recorded my first episode, and it was so funny. It was so bad, like looking back at it now. But at the time, it was so much fun. And then I remember going to a party. So my parents actually, they lived about an hour away from me. So it was like a trek to drive out there and shoot videos. Yeah. And I remember I was like, well, I need to find another way to do this, because this is fun, and I need to keep creating videos. And I was at a party, and I was telling one of my buddies about Zen with Ben and this concept, and he loved it. And he was like, hey, I just signed a lease on a warehouse, me and a few people, and we're turning it into a makerspace, and we want to sponsor artists to use it. They would love Zen with Ben. You can build a whole set at our warehouse. and shoot all your videos there. So we ended up building a set, did a whole green screen setup. One of the people that worked there used to work in TV, so he had all these amazing lights. Yeah, and it was like, it was really cool. And so we ended up shooting like 10 episodes there. And through that process of shooting episodes, I did the branding for Zen with Ben. I create like a channel trailer for Zen. You can go on YouTube and watch it.
I was gonna say, does Zen with Ben still exist on the interweb?
On YouTube, it does. All my episodes are on there still.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
And
I'm definitely putting the link in the show notes. Hell yeah,
check it out. And then from there, like once I had all those pieces together, I had a really cool case study. And then one of my friends, who's a coach, said, "Hey, I know this woman who's starting out, and I showed her your Zen with Ben stuff, and she loved it, and she wants to talk to you about doing her branding." And that became my first client. And so Zen with Ben led me to my first client, which then I was able to do another case study. Like, okay, here's kind of like jokingly case study. Now here's like a real world legit coach that I branded. And then that's what really started my career.
Oh my gosh. So
yeah,
on the other side of that simple expression, like giving yourself the freedom to create. If there's no Zen with Ben, you don't get that first client. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
That's how I'm.
There was no proof. Zen with Ben was my proof.
And oh man. So what needs to come first to get to, or at least create momentum towards your highest and best self? The permission or the proof?
Permission, for sure. I think that I had to allow myself to, I had to give myself a container first.
Yeah.
I had to really feel into it, like what this is, and the possibility of what it could be. That helped me have the inspiration to keep following what that next step is going to be. Yeah. And then realizing, like, what proof do I need for this? So then I have a target that I need to hit.
Yeah. Help me here, because I feel like when you become a master of what you do, whether it was, born of 25 years on the training floor for me, or, your intimate knowledge of brand building, when you become a master technician of your craft, there's so much of that was born of a genuine curiosity, a talent, a knack for that thing that is just highly intuitive at a point. Is like it's so much less academic, even if you do have a formal education. And then what I've noticed in coaches I've mentored and whatnot along the way, there seems to be a disconnect between all the joy associated with that intuition that made you really good at the thing, and then doing it on purpose. Like, there's more. I could do this for myself. I could turn this job into a career. I could go off and start my own thing. And then there's all the shit that comes with that decision, right? How do you reconcile that which you serendipitously charted a course to being able to create the callus for the capacity and bandwidth to do it on purpose, intentionally, in your consciousness?
The first thing that comes to mind, and this goes back to Pressfield. It's so funny that we talked about him, but
I'm so happy you know him. I can't it blows my mind at this point that more people don't.
I know, right? It's as long as you show up, that's half the work. And then once you get to that point of just continually showing up, then the next steps, whatever needs to happen, will also show up for you. Like it's a constant dialogue. I think it also there's a balance too of not knowing enough and knowing too much. And I think I was at a space where I didn't know exactly what all it would entail. So I didn't really, it didn't stop me. But if I were to know like what I had to go through at that time, I don't know if I would have felt like I had the courage or momentum to do it. So there's also that sense of, if I don't know enough, that actually does a service to you, because it's gonna tell you what needs to happen rather than you thinking this is how it needs to happen. This is the way I'm told it should happen. So does that answer it? Because it's always a tricky thing. It's like, it's trying to anchor something that's so nebulous, and it shows up differently for so many people, that to me, like, that's how it's always kind of felt for me if I were to reflect on
it. Dive a little deeper.
All right, where do you want me to double click at?
I mean, fuck, we'll just go there, because I don't have the language for it. The exploration of the esoteric. Like I tell people all the time, you got to show up for the one the same way. I'm actually giving a talk on this tomorrow. Awesome. You got to show up for one person with the same way you think you should show up for a stadium full of people. Because if you can't show up for the one, the odds of you being able to pull it off with thousands of people is slim to fucking none. Let's not kid ourselves. True. And I really feel like that's the delusion. We get so disappointed that nobody's going to listen to this podcast, so we stop. And it's like, no, if you were really for this thing, you would do it anyway. Right?
Yeah.
So how do you stop arguing with yourself and lean into what's actually true? Double click on that.
Okay. If I would reflect on my journey, I think that it's the difference between pushing towards something and being pulled by it. And I think as long as I felt excited and the energy was inviting me to step in, to experiment, that's what kept me going. Whether I thought I was going to get a client or not from doing Zen with Ben. But I just knew my excitement went to that direction, and I just knew I needed to follow it. So I think excitement, curiosity, and that if I don't do this, I know I'll regret it. There's also that aspect too of, is it worth standing still? Is it worth stopping and settling to where I'm at? And the answer was no. It was like, it can't, I'm at a breaking point. I already know what that path is. I have to see what else is out there.
You're compelled.
Yeah, absolutely.
I ask people this question because you know what you said about, if I knew then what I know now, would I have ended up here? And I feel like it, you know, a lot of people when they pose that question to themselves, like the obvious answer is like, no, like it's that shit was hard. It you know, or whatever. It was what it was. And at the same time, it's like it may not go that way for you. Right? There is nothing that says that everything that you went through, that I've been through, is guaranteed that you're going to go through in your own personal journey. However, this is the trump card. And this is where I'm just like, you know what? Go get a job, go do something else. anything else, are you willing? If all of that shit came true, if all of that resistance showed up at once for what feels like a really long time, are you willing to see it through to the end? And if the answer is no, it's a non-starter.
Mm-hmm.
When I say that, when you start answering the question of willingness, what shows up for you?
Mm. Well, I resonate with what you're saying. I feel like my journey has been of, if I'm going to do this, I am going to see it to the very end. There's no other options. It's almost as if you have to like force yourself into a corner. Like there's no plan Bs, you know, there's only plan A, and I don't want a plan B. I don't want to distract myself. I think as long as this kind of goes back to the esotericness of things too.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a divine calling. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is just the path that kind of showed up. Screw it. I'll go where it needs to. It feels very purpose driven. Knowing that I get to work with some of the biggest world changers and help them reach more people. That's huge. And getting people clear who want to become that and helping them along their journey. I mean, it feels like it's a big responsibility. It's like what I'm ultimately becoming is the mirror between you and the rest of the world. So my job is to see you as clear as possible so that everyone can see what I see. And that's huge responsibility.
Yes.
That's ultimately what my job is. I want people to see through my eyes of how I see you.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a much bigger thing that's in play than branding. You know, so there's a larger calling, and that's why I'm saying like there's a deeper pull that's happening that's beyond
that. Yeah. That's beautiful, dude. Wow.
Thank you.
I think that's a great place to put a pin in it, man. Where can everybody find you and glean knowledge of all things branding, being in business through what you got going on with Natalie and Michael?
Yeah, so our website is personalbrand.com. You can see all of our work. We are doing a brand business breakthrough where Michael got to experience us in person. The next one is going to be in January. I'll share the link with you so you can drop that in the show notes.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
And if anyone wants to follow me online, it's just at Jonathan Greye on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and you can find me on all the socials.
Nice, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. This was fun.
Dude, you have been a beacon of hope and clarity in my life. And I do not say that lightly. I really mean, like you changed me, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing at the level I'm doing it with the confidence with which I do it. If it hadn't been for the work that I did with and through you. So thank you, man.
Thank you, man. And you're the full reason of why I do this. Thank you so much for sharing that.
For sure. For everybody out there, reach out to Jonathan. Make yourself available for what they're doing in January. The link will be in the show notes, because everything that we're talking about in terms of building your personal brand and showing up in the world at your highest expression requires integrity, courage, and ownership. But at the end of the day, it all starts with alignment first. We'll see you next time.